Have you ever felt a heaviness around someone that you couldn't explain? Everything looked normal. This person smiled, said the right things, acted friendly, but something inside you tightened up. A chill, a pressure in your chest, the feeling that something wasn't right without being able to name what it was. This feeling is no coincidence, and it's not your imagination. It's a warning system working deep within you. A system older than any language, older than any prayer, older than any religion. And this very system is what they tried to train out of you. They taught you to be polite, not to judge, to give everyone a chance. But nobody taught you to listen to that inner signal. Nobody showed you how to recognize who is truly standing in front of you. Until today, because today you'll learn about a single question that Jesus taught his closest disciples. Not the masses, not the 12, but an even smaller circle, which the Gnostic texts referred to as the pneumatics, the knowing ones, the awakened ones. Those who were ready to see the truth behind the surface. This question was kept hidden for almost 2,000 years. In 1945, an Egyptian farmer dug into the earth near Nag Hammadi and stumbled upon a sealed clay jar. What he found inside changed everything we knew about the early teachings of Jesus. 13 codices written on papyrus, hidden from the Roman Church, which had deemed these texts dangerous and ordered their destruction. When researchers translated these writings, they discovered something astonishing. In one of the texts, on the margin of a page outside the main text, a handwritten note had been inserted as if the scribe had added something too important to include in the official text, but too significant to leave out. This note contained a question, and below it was a single sentence. Whoever has the courage to ask this will see the darkness. The church knew this question. It knew of its existence since the earliest days of Christianity, but it never included this question in the canonical texts. Not because it was unimportant, but because it was too dangerous. Because if you ask this question of any person, their true nature is revealed. The mask falls, and what sometimes appears underneath is not human. To understand why this one question holds such power, you first need to grasp what the Gnostic teachers knew about the structure of this world. And this is where it gets uncomfortable, because what they taught contradicts everything the church has preached for almost 2,000 years. The Gnostic texts, including the Gospel of Thomas, Pistis Sophia, and the secret book of John, describe a reality that goes far beyond what you've been told. They speak of an original source, the monad, a pure consciousness beyond all form, beyond all matter. That which is truly divine, not an old man on a throne, but pure, boundless consciousness. From this monad, everything that exists emerged. You too. A spark of this primal source burns within you. The Gnostic teachers called it the divine spark, a piece of the monad enclosed in matter, imprisoned in a physical body, trapped in a world that is not what it appears to be. For this world, the Gnostic texts teach, was not created by the true God. It was created by the demiurge, a being who considers himself the supreme God, but isn't. The demiurge is the architect of the material. He designed this world as a kind of prison, not out of malice in the human sense, but out of ignorance. He doesn't know the monad. He doesn't know that something exists beyond his own creation. And the demiurge doesn't work alone. He is served by the Archons, invisible beings who operate in this material dimension and have a single task: to keep you at a low vibration, to cut you off from your divine spark, to make you forget who you truly are. The Archons don't just work from the outside. This is the crucial point most people miss. Pistis Sophia describes in detail how Archons operate through certain people, not as dramatic possession, but as influence, as a frequency, as a kind of program running in certain people without them knowing it. And sometimes, in rare cases, it's not humans under archontic influence. Sometimes what looks like a human is something entirely different. Jesus knew this. He saw it. The Gospel of Philip reports that Jesus possessed the ability to recognize the true nature of a being, regardless of their outer appearance. He saw who carried the divine spark and who didn't. He saw who had light within them and who was just an empty shell. And he saw who was in the service of the Archons, consciously or unconsciously. One evening, outside the walls of Jerusalem in an olive grove, something occurred that the Gnostic texts describe as the evening of revelation. That day, Jesus had noticed someone in the crowd, someone whose eyes held a certain emptiness. From the outside, this person seemed like everyone else. They smiled, nodded, listened. But Jesus recognized the truth. He turned to his inner circle, not the 12, but the closer circle, the pneumatics. And he told them, "There will be some among you who look like you, who speak like you, who act like you, but they are not." One of his disciples asked, "How can we recognize them?" And at that moment, Jesus taught a single question. This question was so simple that his disciples were initially confused. They had expected something complicated, a ritual, perhaps a formula, a hidden gesture. But what Jesus gave them was a single sentence, a question that anyone can ask in any situation, at any moment. And yet a question that reveals a truth that cannot be made visible by anything else. The question, translated from the Coptic text and freed from layers of ecclesiastical falsifications, is essentially this: what do you feel when you are completely still and nothing is expected of you? Read the sentence slowly again, because its entire power lies in its simplicity. This question doesn't work like an ordinary question. It's not a tool for conversation, it's a mirror. And this mirror works on 3 levels simultaneously, which Jesus explained individually to his disciples that night. The first level is the level of words. What a person answers to this question reveals more than 1,000 conversations could, because this question touches something that most people avoid their entire lives: the encounter with one's own stillness, the encounter with what remains when all roles, all masks, all expectations fall away. A person who carries the divine spark within them will pause at this question. Perhaps they will ponder. Perhaps they will smile. Perhaps they will say that in stillness they feel something like coming home, or a deep peace, or a longing they cannot name. These answers are signs of light. The divine spark in this person resonates with the question because the question targets precisely the frequency on which the spark vibrates. But a person under archontic influence reacts completely differently. Pistis Sophia describes 5 reaction patterns that indicate archontic imprinting. The first is avoidance. The person evades the question, changes the subject, makes a joke, or distracts. They cannot face stillness because there is nothing in their stillness. No spark, no resonance, only emptiness. And this emptiness frightens them, even if they don't show it. The second pattern is aggression. The person becomes irritated, sarcastic, or dismissive. They attack the question or the one asking it. "What kind of stupid question is that? Why are you asking something like that?" This aggression is not a personal reaction. It's a defense mechanism. The question has touched something that is meant to remain hidden, and the archontic influence in this person resists. The third pattern is intellectual evasion. The person begins to philosophize, theorize, analyze. They talk about stillness without ever having felt it. They use words as a shield. Many words, clever words, but without any depth, without any genuine feeling. This is particularly difficult to recognize because it sounds like wisdom. But wisdom without feeling is archontic imitation. The fourth pattern is confusion. The person doesn't understand the question. Not because the question is complicated, but because the question addresses a space that does not exist in that person. It's as if you're asking someone about a color they can't see. They have no organ for it, no resonance surface. The confusion is genuine, and that's exactly what makes it so revealing. The fifth pattern is the perfect answer. And this pattern is the most dangerous of all. The person gives an answer that sounds exactly right, empathetic, profound, touching, but something about it feels memorized, copied, like a role perfectly played. The Gnostic teachers particularly warned against this pattern because it means that the archontic influence in this person has advanced so far that it has learned to imitate light. Now for the second level, the level of the body. Jesus taught his disciples not only to pay attention to the words, but to what the body reveals while the words are spoken. For the body cannot lie. The mind can put on a mask, the mouth can form the right words, but the body reacts to truth and lies differently. And this reaction happens faster than the conscious mind can control it. Pay attention to the eyes. The moment you ask the question, something crucial happens in the other person's eyes. A person with a divine spark will briefly look inward. Their gaze will soften, look slightly downwards or into the distance. They search within themselves for the answer. But a person under archontic influence shows a different reaction. Their eyes remain fixed, or they flicker briefly. It's a minimal flutter, barely perceptible, but it's there. The eyes don't search inward, they search outward. They look for the right answer, not the true answer. Pay attention to the voice. A person who answers from their divine spark speaks slower. Their voice becomes slightly deeper, a little softer. There's a pause before the answer because genuine feeling needs time to be put into words. A person under archontic influence answers faster, often too fast. The answer comes before the question has truly been absorbed, and the voice remains at the same frequency as before. No change, no sinking in, no touching. Pay attention to the posture. The Gospel of Philip describes that truth relaxes the body and lies tense the body. When you ask the question, a person with a divine spark will subtly open up. Their shoulders will drop, their hands will open, their breath will deepen. A person under archontic influence, however, tenses up, often unconsciously. Their shoulders subtly rise, their jaw clenches, their hands close or grasp for something. The body prepares for defense because the question is perceived as a threat. And now the third level, the level that is hardest to explain, but the most powerful of all, the level of your own feeling. Jesus told his disciples that the divine spark within themselves is the most precise detector there is. Your spark recognizes another spark, and your spark recognizes the absence of a spark. After you've asked the question, don't just pay attention to the other person, pay attention to yourself. What do you feel in your body? What happens in your chest, in your stomach, in your hands? In the presence of someone who carries the divine spark, you will feel something specific after this question. A warmth, an expansiveness, a sense of connection. Your own spark responds to their spark. Resonance occurs. The Gnostic texts call this the recognition of light by light. But in the presence of someone under archontic influence, you will feel something completely different. A heaviness, a constriction, a feeling as if energy is being drained from you. Your spark contracts because it encounters a frequency hostile to it. This is not imagination. This is not projection. This is your oldest and deepest recognition system doing exactly what it was created to do. Perhaps you're now asking yourself why this question is so effective. Why these particular words? The answer lies in what the question touches upon. Stillness, the absence of expectation, the moment when nothing is demanded of you, and you are simply who you truly are. For a person carrying the divine spark, this moment is familiar. They have felt it, perhaps without being able to name it. In the stillness, late at night, when the world sleeps and they are alone with themselves, there is something, a presence, a glow, a home. The spark knows stillness because it comes from stillness, from the monad of pure consciousness that exists before all noise, before all form, before all matter. But for a being under archontic influence, stillness is the enemy. The Archons operate through noise, through distraction, through constant stimulation. Their frequency needs movement, needs drama, needs chaos. In stillness, there is nothing for them to cling to. That's why archontically influenced people avoid stillness. That's why they fill every moment with words, with activity, with noise. Stillness is the only space where their mask doesn't work, and that's exactly the space the question targets. Now comes the part that might surprise you because until now you've understood this question as a tool you directed at others. But the Gnostic teachers, especially Valentinus, who almost paid with his life for these teachings in the 2nd century, taught yet another step, the most important of all. Before you ever ask this question of another person, ask it of yourself. What do you feel when you are completely still and nothing is expected of you? Sit with it. Don't evade. Don't intellectualize. Observe what happens within you, because archonic influence doesn't start outside. It starts inside. The quiet voice that belittles you, the restless unease that prevents you from finding peace, the inner critic who is never satisfied, the fear of stillness itself. All these are traces of archontic influence that have taken root in your consciousness. But here is the truth that changes everything. If you are even capable of asking this question of yourself, if you have the courage to go into stillness and look honestly, then that is the strongest proof that your divine spark is still burning. An Archon cannot ask this question of itself. It has no stillness. It has no spark that could answer. The fact that you can ask this question, the fact that you are feeling something within you right now as you hear this, proves who you are. You are not here by chance. You didn't stumble upon this video by accident. Your spark has led you here because you are ready. Ready to see, ready to recognize, ready to use a tool that was hidden from you for almost 2,000 years. Some will say this is just psychology. Some will say there are no Archons, no hidden forces. That's exactly what the Archons would like you to believe, for their most powerful weapon is your doubt. But you have this feeling. You've always had it, that some people are not who they pretend to be, that behind the surface of this world lies something most don't see. This feeling now has a tool. Use it not with fear, but with the calm clarity of one who recognizes. You are the light placed into this world to make the darkness visible, not to fight it, but to see it. For what is seen loses its power. Jesus knew this. The Gnostic teachers knew this. Valentinus knew this when he stood before the council and refused to deny this truth. And now you know it too. The question has been asked. The answer lies in the stillness. If this story has changed the way you perceive the hidden forces in our world, please subscribe to our channel and leave a like. We are unearthing the history they tried so hard to bury. Nourish your inner spark and help plant the seeds for the future. The next treasure from the storehouse of truth will soon be revealed.